says, I will walk before the Lord in what? In the land of what? In the land of the living. I will walk before the Lord in the land of the living. In verse 15, who is precious in the sight of the Lord? Death is saints. 117. Thank goodness we have a chapter with 2 verses. 117 verse 2, God has great what toward us?
Merciful kindness.
What?
Merciful kindness.
Okay. Steadfast love toward us, faithfulness, He endures forever. Psalms 118, verse 22. What messianic prophecy is found there?
Christ is the cornerstone.
The what?
That Christ is the cornerstone.
That's right. The stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone, referring to Christ. What would you say about chapter 119? What would you say about it? What comes to mind when you think about that chapter?
The Word of God.
Okay.
There's verses that it doesn't
Okay.
make some allusion to the Word of
Not
God.
where I was going, but I'm going to go there, but it's not where I'm going yet.
It's the excellence of the Word of God.
Okay. What about length?
Well, it's a Hebrew acrostic, meaning it covers all of the letters of the Hebrew alphabet, and there's 8 verses apiece, so that makes 176. My point was 176, the longest chapter in the Bible. Oh, yeah.
Longest chapter in the Bible. So there's 3 words that's mentioned throughout that chapter. What are they? 3 words mentioned in that chapter. Something that we need to do.
Let's follow his commandments.
Okay, commandments, statutes.
And other,
You could say testimonies. You could say precepts. And all of those things refer to His instructions, His laws, and His rules. That's what those it refers to. Okay, 119, 105. What famous statement is that we use a lot? I use it a lot in prayer.
Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my
That's right. Your words are a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. Psalms 120, verse 2. Deliver me from what? What is He asking him to deliver him from?
treacherous people.
Lying lips and deceitful tongue is what He's asking there in Psalms 120, verse 2. Psalms 121, verse 2. My help comes from who?
Lord.
All right. So the Lord is our help. Psalms 123, verse 1. Where shall our eyes look? Okay? And we're looking at what? What is in heaven? That's right. God is there. Lift up your eyes, O you who are enthroned in the heavens. Our eyes look to the Lord our God. Psalms 124, verse 8. Our help is where?
The name of the Lord.
Okay, in the name of the Lord, and it goes on to say what about the Lord? He made the heavens and the earth. Psalms 125, verse 2. The Lord does what for His people?
Surrounds him.
He surrounds His people. Now, what does He surround His people doing?
Protection.
When you look at the children of Israel at that time, He surrounded them for their protection. He protected them. Protected them from the enemies. Is it Him today? Is He not our protection too? Psalms 126, verse 2, the Lord has done what? has the Lord done?
Great things.
Great things. The Lord has done great things.
Is that evident today? Could we say,
by looking at this old law, this old covenant, the children of Israel,
the Lord did great things, but is it stopped? Has he stopped doing great things?
Not at all.
what
What does he give us every day?
He gives us everything we need.
That's
That's
right.
right.
He gives us a new day each day. Psalms 127 verse 5, how is a man very blessed?
And it refers to arrows in a quiver.
He had children.
That's right, that's right. So a man is very blessed when he has
a quiver of children. A quiver full of children. Children are blessed.
Psalms 128, many a time, Chuck, this is American Standard Version. Many a time have they afflicted me from my youth, but they didn't do what? And that's in verse 2.
Never prevailed against him.
They've not gained a victory over me.
That's right. So many a time they afflicted me, but they
did not overtake me. They did not overcome me.
Psalms 130, out of the depths I cried unto the Lord. What does he want God? What does he want God to do there?
To hear his voice. To hear his prayers.
Okay, he wants him to hear.
He wants, oh Lord, hear my voice. Let your ears be attentive to the voice of my pleas for my mercy. So he's pleading for God from the depths. And what is those depths? What's that depth referring to?
Deep
Deep
trouble.
trouble.
Do we
Do we
find
find
ourselves
ourselves sometimes in deep trouble? And do we call on the Lord when we do? We want him to hear us, don't we?
Psalm 131 will start tomorrow morning. So,
10 more chapters. 31 through 40.
You got the,
90.
oh, back here. All right, Jim, will you lead us in prayer, please?
Let's bow. Our Heavenly Father, we just thank you so very much for allowing us to be together tonight to study your word and to be able to sing praises to you and to pray to you. Lord, we just thank you for each day that you allow us to live here under your word and to help us to strive to be the best Christian that we can, to be examples that we should be throughout this area that we're in. Lord, we just thank you for your Son and for the hope of salvation we have through him. Just be with the teachers tonight as they bring lessons to the pupils and just help us all to be attentive and to take something from this to help us to be the best Christian that we can and to just help others to see what they are doing wrong and to come to you before it's turned too late. Just be with the teachers tonight in Christ's name.
Amen.
All right, so we're doing the map for lesson 8, the captivity. We actually had two maps, one for the Assyrian and one for the Babylonian, but what we did was we did the Babylonian one, and so what's this area all up in here? What's this empire? That's the Medes. And how are they going to come to play later on? Yeah. So the Medo-Persian Empire is going to take Babylon.
And basically, they do it in one night.
And they do it in one night. That's right. The Bible talks about that. How in one night that would happen. Yeah. What's this city up here? Carchemish. Anybody tell me anything about Carchemish? It's actually a pretty important battle in history. There's a battle fought there, the Battle of Carchemish. That was
That was, well, after the Battle of Carchemish is when they had the final exiles taken.
well. What that was, it was when Babylon became the world power. So that was a great battle, like what they called the Neo-Assyrian Empire was still hanging on by a thread. Their armies and peoples had amassed themselves and gathered together to this one place. And it was like the last stand. And Nebuchadnezzar came up and defeated them. They became that world power. And right after that's when they started taking Israel. Or Judah, sorry, Captive. All right, so this area down here, the southern kingdom. What's this sea down here?
Red Sea,
Red Sea, this sea over here?
Mediterranean.
Mediterranean. What about this one over here? That's the Persian Gulf. What's this land right here in the yellow? That's Elam. So we hear about Elamites in the Bible. There were Jews from Elam, Elamite people on the day of Pentecost. They pop up every now and then in the biblical story. The city right here that actually became the royal city during the time of Esther. What's that city? Susa. And then off in this direction, this land over here along with this, you have the Persians, all right. So they would mass the Medes to defeat Babylon. Okay. So you have, what's this river here? Tigris. What about this river here? Goes all the way up here. Well, yeah. I pointed at that one, but that was a mistake. That's Kebar. The little bitty one right there, the little tributary, that's Kebar. And then the big one is the Euphrates, yeah. So the little one is where, what happened to the Kebar River? That's where a certain prophet was at when God come to him, showed him many great visions of God. I mean,
Is that where Daniel was?
not where Daniel was, but where Ezekiel was. Yeah, by the river Kebar. He says, I saw visions of God, and that's where he sees this. Remember the wheels within a wheel, and then it's basically a chariot. It's like God's chariot with this huge firmament, and God above the chariot, God's presence there, and that whole thing is pretty magnificent vision there. By the river Kebar, as Ezekiel was in Babylonian captivity. Of course, this city right here, Babylon. What about this city over here? Nineveh. What about this city here? Gozan. How's Gozan play into the biblical story at this point?
That's where they're taken captive.
Right.
And some of them moved over to
Right. Which kingdom? Israel. That's right. The northern kingdom. That's right. Okay. Good. Yep. I think we did all of them. So there you go. God's people are going right back where they came from, aren't they? They're going right back where they came from. This is, just below this is where in Ur, is where God called Abraham from. He journeyed out to go to this land, And they probably went a similar route that Abraham went, because of course you're not going across the desert here. You're going up to Fertile Crescent, because if you're wanting to have access to water and so forth. That's really important, especially if you're driving herds through there. So it had been a great migration and a horrible thing for a lot of people to experience. So God is sending them to Babylon. For how long? 70 years. And then they're going to return, and that's what we will look at Sunday. But tonight what I want to talk about, a little bit about, is the city of Babylon. We've talked already a little bit about it in this overall big picture of the Bible, because Babylon is an important place in the biblical story. Where do we first hear about Babylon? In the Babel Tower. Turn over to Genesis chapter 11, and we're going to read verses 1 through 9, and we're going to go back and just sort of look at how Babylon is part of the biblical story, and sort of see how God's people in their captivity are playing a role in that. So Genesis chapter 11. Someone want to read verses 1 through 9 for us? Genesis 11, 1 through 9. That's the story of the Tower of Babel. All right. So, they come together. What do they want to do? That is exactly right. That is exactly right. That's their purpose. That is their goal. To build this big thing, and people will remember us. Has the human race changed much since then? See, that's what we always do it. We want to show how great we are, how smart we are, how powerful we are. God shows us time and time again, though, we're nothing. We're nothing. All He has to do is go, boop. All He has to do is sort of blow on us. And Babel actually means, the irony of this is that Babel, or Babel, I've heard it pronounced different ways, would become Babylon. It would become this great and powerful city in history. However, the very name Babel means what? Confusion. It means confusion. Stop babbling. And so even though this would become a great city and would play a great role in the biblical story, it sort of becomes a representation of like this amalgamation of pride and confusion. It becomes this place of rebellion. And it was a wicked place. It was a place all throughout the biblical story of idolatry and immorality. I'm going to show you a little bit, kind of show you a little bit of that tonight in what I have to show you here. But one particular character sort of becomes the exemplar prideful man. And he kind of represents the spirit that ruled over Babylon. And so when God's people misbehave and they rebel against God and they become prideful and stubborn in their ways and they become idolaters, where does God send them? Well, he sends them to the place of rebellion and confusion and pride and idolatry. And so that's really Babylon, is this very wicked place. Egypt is another place similar to that. Egypt sort of plays a similar role there in the biblical story. So this is the ancient city of Babel, or Babylon. A lot of reconstruction has been going on to show what this magnificent city would have been like. There's not just the city, but as you can see back here, there's like a theater back there and a temple-like structure. And I'm going to have an aerial photo in a little bit. You'll see the theater if you look close enough. But this is a pretty cool place if you're going to go visit it to see. Now, here's kind of from the inside. Like I said, there's a lot of reconstruction that has been going on to try and restore the city. But a lot of brickwork. And in this brickwork, there were these carvings of animals. To give you an idea, this is a restoration. Of course, this is in the museum at Berlin. But this is called the Ishtar Gate, the gate opening into the great city of Babylon, and this reconstruction tries to capture what they think the original would have looked like. And they've got, like I said, these carvings in the wall of these different animals. One of them being a lion right here. This is kind of a close-up of one of these down here below. But just a spectacular feature here. And Babylon was just such it was a beautiful place in its heyday, in its time, especially when it became the great world empire. Once again, even before that, though, in Abraham's time, we saw what about Ur? We looked a little bit about Ur in that area. That's right. I mean, plentiful gold and all sorts of beautiful things. This is called the Lion of Babylon. This is one of the main features that you see if you go over there. They sort of built a thing around it. This statue is thought to be about 3,600 years old. Very old and in very good condition. Now, they think that on top of the lion, they like lion. For some reason, lion was a state, was a creature proliferant in that culture and their ideas. This is one of their goddesses. She's the goddess of sex, fertility, and love. And this is Ishtar. Ishtar, or Inanna. She's called Ishtar by the Assyrians, and Inanna, that's that better pronounced, Inanna by the Babylonians. And it is thought that she rode on this beast. They think that there was a saddle here, and there was once an image of her riding on this great beast. Now, the thing that makes this statue kind of gross is, you see what's underneath that? Yeah, there's a human. What do you think the lion's doing to the human? Yeah. See, in that culture, they're glorifying, this is a gross, horrible act of, now this is what they think this is. This is their theory, okay, about this. But it would fit the Babylonian culture. They were very immoral. They were wicked people. They were full of idolatry, and they worshiped things like sex and bestiality, all these things that God condemns in the old law, the law of Moses. But just kind of give you an idea of their ways, these people and how they thought. But you know what? They built some great stuff. So in Hellenistic fable, okay, people consider this fable because people don't have solid proof of it, but can anybody tell me what this is? Hanging Gardens. Considered to be one of what? The 7 wonders of the ancient world. So in Hellenistic thought, there's this idea that ancient Babylon had these hanging gardens, in particular during the time of which king? Nebuchadnezzar. It was thought that Nebuchadnezzar built these gardens for his Median wife. She was Mede. She was a Mede. And it was thought that he built this for her to declare the magnificence of his kingdom. You know, it's interesting. Nebuchadnezzar really is the representation of everything that Babylon stands for. Babel is a place of pride and rebellion, a place of immorality. It is the place where people flex and show how great they are. But it is also that place where God comes in and says, hey, you're just a little bitty. You're not as great as you think you are. You're nothing before me. I'm the one who's in control. God did that at the Tower of Babel, but He also did that in the life of Nebuchadnezzar. In Daniel chapter 4, verses 28 through 32, someone want to go over there and read that? Daniel chapter 4, verses 28 through 32.
All this happened to Nebuchadnezzar, king. 12 months later, he was walking on the roof of the royal palace of Babylon. The king reflected and said, "Is not Babylon great? Time of death has built it as a royal residence. My might and my power, the glory of my majesty." On the word of the king's mouth, a voice came from heaven saying, "King Nebuchadnezzar, to you is declared sovereignty and kingdom and princes. You will be driven away from that mountain. The dwelling place will be beasts of the field. Will be grass feed like cattle, and 7 periods of time will pass over you until you recognize that the Most High is ruler over the realm of mankind, and shows it on every region."
Yep. So what happened to Nebuchadnezzar? He went crazy, didn't he? Ate grass like an ox, grew long claws, and just lived like a wild, crazy man. How long did that go on? Yeah. Yeah, he says 7 times. A lot of people think that refers to 7 years. In symbolic language, that's what it refers to, like in Revelation. Time times and half a time is 3.5 years. So time, 1 year times 2 years, and then half time is half a year. So the idea of a time would be a period of a year. So 7 years. And he was finally humbled after that, though, wasn't he? He was finally humbled. What did he finally admit? God is God. He rules in the kingdoms of men. He gives it to whomever He wishes. You got to think, though, just looking at that picture, though, imagine, Nebuchadnezzar going out on his porch one day and looking out and seeing something like that. And, Built what? Well, what I read, though, they said it was Nebuchadnezzar that built it. A lot of green, yeah. Well, wasn't the Taj Mahal? Wasn't the Taj Mahal built for a woman, wife? Yeah, of one of those great kings. So yeah, but just imagine, whether or not the Hanging Gardens is accurate or whether it's a story. We know ancient Babylon looked quite amazing and spectacular. And, You know, it can be very easy for a human being who's in power. I mean, you are the leader of the world power of that day. You have to be a very moral, a very spiritually guided person to not let that go to your head. I mean, just think about it. It'd be very easy for anybody to look out and say, look at all of that. Look at what I did. Yeah. Yeah. Is the Hanging Gardens there today? Nope. Can't find it. See, all these things that man does, it's temporary. It's temporary. So, in this painting, this is actually a very famous representation of this, but what do you see in the very back here? Like a tower. Now, this is interesting. I actually think this is trying to capture something I think pretty accurate. Babylon's known for its towers, right? The Tower of Babel. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Nebuchadnezzar did build a tower, but he didn't just build it. It was a restoration project. Oh, this gets interesting. So, this is the Edamanaki stele of Nebuchadnezzar. You see him up there. Look at him. Look at big old dude standing there with his staff. There's Nebuchadnezzar right there in all his glory. Now, if you look on this, if you look close, you see this outline right here? See right there, there's a triangle shape. If you get close, I blew it up here, but if you look close, there's a representation of a tower there on that stele. It's hard to see with the photo, I'm sure, but if you get the right contrast and the photos in the right light, you can see it. You can kind of see it a little bit better, though, kind of backed out almost. If you look right there, you can see the indentation of the tower. There's words down here, and this writing down here tells about how Nebuchadnezzar took it upon himself to build this great tower. But once again, it wasn't building it from nothing. Nebuchadnezzar is restoring a tower that for some reason was not finished in the past somewhere. He is also building or restoring a temple to the gods. This tower is called Edamanaki. You look it up and read about it. You can read about this stele here. This clay tablet here is a commemoration of him reconstructing this. Now, here's where it gets interesting. We go to Babylon, and it's like, well, we don't find anything really hard evidence of the Hanging Gardens. That's sort of in the literature. However, if you just look down from satellite image, this is actually a screenshot that I captured. I did this experiment. This was several years ago. So this is a screenshot I took from several years ago, so I don't know if it would look exactly the same now, but probably pretty much the same. This is the site of ancient Babylon. That first thing that I showed you just a moment ago, that's the ancient city of Babylon. Over here, remember, there's that temple, and that right here, there's like a little crescent thing right here. There's an old theater right there where they had performances and games and so forth. And so this whole area here is the site of ancient Babylon. Now, just to the south, look at that thing right there on the ground. It's an impression. It's a square impression on the ground. It's basically a flat place where nothing grows, where it's just been stamped down. All the dirt has just been really compacted. Around that is like a swamp area. And that is what people pretty much think is Edamanaki. This would have been the only place that we could find that would corroborate what Nebuchadnezzar is saying here in this tower that he built or restored. Now it's interesting. I just zoomed up on Apple Maps, and it says this is the Tower of Babel. We don't know if this is the Tower of Babel, but I think it's pretty interesting. How did this whole thing start? How did this whole city begin? A whole bunch of people come together, want to flex their muscles, want to show off and say, look how great we are. They build a tower. What happens to the tower? Well, stop building it because nobody can understand each other, so they go their separate ways. Nebuchadnezzar tries to rebuild a tower. I think it's interesting. I think this is a good contender. There's a few different proposed sites for the Tower of Babel. Could be the Tower of Babel. This is one of them, Edamanaki, and it is right outside the ancient city of Babylon. Right there, you could see it with satellite images, the little square imprint on the ground. I want to come back to this lesson, though, that, man, he tries to do all these great things. He tries to show his power and his might, but time and time again he fails. All God has to do is just sort of blow, if you would, so to speak, on what he does, and it just melts away. And we go to ancient Babylon, we can find remains of the great city, but they're just remains. The Ishtar Gate, we don't have the Ishtar Gate in all its glory. It had to be reconstructed to make it look like what it might have looked like. Nebuchadnezzar looked out on all that he did. He probably looked out on that tower that he tried to rebuild, and he thought to himself, man, am I something? But 25 or something 100 years later, it's almost all gone. It's gone. I mean, it's just remains sitting there, just in a bunch of dust. And that is what happens when people try to build Babel. That's what happens in our lives when we try to build Babylon for ourselves, where we try to amass fame or glory or honor, or we try and get people to see how great we are. It comes to nothing. And man, in all his work, God teaches him over and over again, we're nothing. We are nothing. We are less than nothing. And all of our works are temporary. They pass away. And that's what Babel really teaches us, is that the works of man before God are nothing. They pass away. They're temporary. But God's work, going back to Daniel's, well, it was Nebuchadnezzar's vision that God showed Nebuchadnezzar about that great statue he built, right? What happened to the statue? And that dream that Nebuchadnezzar had, what happened to that statue? It fell down. What tore it down? What was cut out without hands? The rock. And it came and hit that statue and crushed it in a million pieces. And that stone became a great mountain that filled the whole earth. And we remember the story. What does that represent? What is that great stone? That mountain that was filled the whole earth. That's the Lord's kingdom. God's telling Nebuchadnezzar right there in that dream, which we're going to look at. We're going to look at that in more detail in a couple of lessons. God is teaching Nebuchadnezzar, the things I do, they never pass away. They remain forever. God's kingdom. Man's kingdoms, they come, they go. That's Babel. God's kingdom, it remains forever. So, to put forth a question to you as we wrap up tonight, a few minutes early, if anybody has any comments, feel free to make them. In your life, are you trying to build Babel, or are you like God's people, trying to seek the promised land? So So I leave that with you. Thank you for your kind attention tonight. Anybody got any comments or questions? I can't promise you I can answer. Yeah. 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 Yep. Yep. Same thing as Genesis 1. Let us make man in our image. So, yeah, that's interesting. But that shows you God's not just one person, right? He's three. So I think that's what that means. I think that's what that means. So yeah, let us go down and confuse their language. And he did. And that was Babel. All right. Anybody else got anything? That's right. So next time what we're going to talk about is how Belshazzar was feasting with all of the nobles and all the people, and they were living it up, right? And in one night, what happened? What made him afraid? What appeared on the wall? Big hand. Big hand. And basically, the sum of that message is, your time's up, bud. Your time's up. And that God used those Medes and those Persians come in, took them. Yeah, we'll talk more about that next time in lesson number 9. Cyrus the Great. That's right, man. I tell you, a great king. And you know, even though he's not a Jew, he's not considered to be one of God's people. He had a lot more spiritual insight than Nebuchadnezzar did in his earlier life before God humbled him. And Cyrus is going to do a great thing for God's people. He's going to be the guy, the great king of Persia. He's going to be the guy to send his people home, to send God's people back to Jerusalem to rebuild it. And it's just a great time in the history of God's people. We're going to look at that next Sunday. So do the questions in pages 54 and 55, and we'll talk about that. Good deal. Thank you all very much. Oh, really? Yeah.
As I was sitting in class tonight, a feeling came over me a couple years ago. I was leading scene, and the preacher got up and preached a hard sermon on change. You got to change, 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 change. The whole time I'm cringing. I'm getting sick to my stomach. Change, change. Let's stand for the invitation. Just as I am. That has happened to me again tonight. If you would turn to Genesis 11, verses 1 through 9. We did not collaborate anything here. It just happened to come out. I'm going to go ahead and read it again for those that were in the other classes. Now the whole world had one language and one speech. And it came to pass as they journeyed from the east, they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said to one another, "Come, let us make bricks and bake them thoroughly." They had bricks for stones, and they had asphalt for mortar. And they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city, a tower whose top is in the heavens. Let us make a name for ourselves. Let us be scattered abroad over all the face of the whole earth." But the Lord came down to the city and the tower which the Son of Man had built. And the Lord said, "Indeed, the people are one, and they have one language, and this is what they begin to do. Now nothing they propose to do will be withheld from them. Come, let us go down, let us confuse their language, that they may not understand each other." And the Lord scattered them abroad over the face of the earth. Therefore they ceased building. Therefore the name was called Babel. And the Lord confused the languages of all the earth. This one thing, though, that really got me about this story, this is one of my favorite events in the whole Bible. I just enjoy reading, like Jonathan was talking about, God showing man where he really is. But there was one phrase in here that really got me. In verse 6, it said, "And the Lord said, Indeed, the people are one. They have one language, and they begin to do. This they begin to do. Now, nothing they propose to do will be withheld from them." So it impresses me that God, and most of the time that we read things, we see him sending angels down to do things, different things going on. But this time he comes down, and he's looking at this situation. You know, this is a tad bit different than most time what you read. This is impressive, and he understands that these people can do whatever they decide to do, and he admits it. Hey, these guys are one. They're united. They are one together. You can look at their language. Come on, let us get up. Let's build. They're excited. They picked the best material. They got these bricks, and they're baking them, which means that it's going to be good and strong. And it's going to be beautiful, because when you bake it, it brings out all the minerals and stuff. So this is really going to be something else. They are really putting forth great effort in this building, in this tower that they're building. And they're working together. They're excited and striving together. The only problem is there's no God in the picture. No God. And they haven't considered God. They're not doing anything for God. This is for them. Like he said, let's show them how great we are. Let's show everybody how great we are. And so that was what was wrong. But it also gives you the idea that what it would be like if it was said in a good way. If God would come down and look and say, look what these people are doing. They're one. They're working together. And they could do anything. And they say it in a good way because their purpose is they're working for God. They're doing what God has wanted them to do, what God has taught them to do, and that's what they're doing instead of doing what the Tower of Babel was doing. So, one thing about that, 1 Peter 2, starting in verse 4, "Coming to him as a living stone, rejected indeed by men, but chosen by God and precious. Ye also, a living stone being built up, a spiritual house." See, we're building our own little tower ourselves to heaven. "A holy priesthood, and offering a spiritual sacrifice acceptable to God through Jesus Christ. Therefore, it is also contained in the scripture, Behold, I lay in Zion the chief cornerstone, elect, precious. And he who believes on him will by no means be put to shame. Therefore, to you who believe, he is precious. But to those who are disobedient, the stone which the builder rejected has become chief cornerstone, a stone of stumbling, a rock of offense. they stumbled being disobedient to the word, and they also were appointed. But you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, his own special people, that you may proclaim the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his magnificent light, who once was not a people, but now the people of God, who had not obtained mercy, but now have attained mercy. Beloved, I beg you, sojourners and pilgrims, abstain from fleshly lusts, which war against the soul, having you conduct honorable among the Gentiles. And when they speak against you as evildoers, they may, by your good works, glorify God in the day of salvation. Do this the same way, with unity, with zeal, with the purpose and goals set that God has set for us to do. Tonight, if you're not a child of God, you're invited to join us and keep building this spiritual house that we're building with the unity and God's people and his word, trying to be zealous. We're going to strive to please God, and we're going to try to glorify God in the days of his visitation. If you're a child of God and you have any other needs, we ask you please come forward, and we'll help you in any way we can as we stand and sing.
I heard an old story, how Savior came from glory, how he gave his life on Calvary to save a wretch like me. I heard about his groaning, how his precious blood atoning. Then I repented of my sins and won the victory. Oh, victory in Jesus, my Savior forever. He sought me and bought me with his redeeming blood. He loved me and I knew him, and all my love is to him. He plunged me to victory beneath the cleansing flood. I heard about his healing, of his cleansing power revealing, how he made the lame to walk again and caused the blind to see. And then I cried to Jesus, come and heal my broken spirit. I did obey his blessed command and gain the victory. Oh, victory in Jesus, my Savior forever. He sought me and bought me with his redeeming blood. He loved me ere I knew him, and all my love is to him. He plunged me to victory beneath the cleansing flood. I heard about a mansion he has built for me in glory, and heard about the street of gold beyond the crystal sea, about the angels singing and the old redemption story. And some sweet day I'll sing up there the song of victory. Oh, victory in Jesus, my Savior forever. He sought me and bought me with his redeeming blood. He loved me ere I knew him, and all my love is to him. He plunged me to victory beneath the cleansing flood.
Good to see everyone out tonight. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to all of our teachers for teaching our classes. Appreciate it so much.